So the way in which we've worked changed, and it changed back on the 4th of September, back in 1998. If you think back that far, it's a long time ago, 1998. But in 1998, it was when Google was born. So in our personal life, the advent of search engines such as Google, they have made us enormously more efficient. And in fact, the researchers say that for our personal work, we're actually 400 times more efficient now. It's quite a lot. But what we were thinking about, and what I think we're finding now is now it's actually changing, is that for companies we don't really have a Google. Every time we have a problem in a company, we don't have a search engine we can immediately find the solution to. And companies have been a little bit slower in adopting this way of reaching out to kind of gather answers. They still have a tendency to reinvent the wheel. This concept that actually it's much easier and cheaper to go out and find people who perhaps already know the answer to your problem, rather than necessarily trying to solve the situation, solve a problem yourself. And this kind of message of knowledge brokering is actually the best source of new ideas is to take old ideas that have been used in other ways and reapply them in new ways. And so if you can go to a wide variety of industries and contexts, then this is the way that open innovation works. His basic findings was that it's about a 20th of the cost, it's not bad, a 10th of the time, so it's cheaper, it's faster, and actually the cost of failure is much lower because you don't bear the cost of failure yourself because you're not using your assets. Somebody else is, perhaps using their assets to try and solve it. So it's pretty attractive from the point of view of this idea of open innovation, of finding rather than solving. So this is kind of the concept of knowledge brokering, is you take one idea, and engineers are very good at it, and you apply it to other applications, and that's just the way the knowledge brokering goes. Do you find it difficult to bring ideas into your business? Is it hard to get people to accept stuff? But what we were finding in large multinational businesses, it's actually relatively difficult to bring in good ideas because, they say there's this not invented here syndrome. Have you heard of that? The not invented here syndrome. Not invented here syndrome. It's a syndrome where people say, oh, it doesn't really apply to us because we're different. We're not the same as that business. Talking about who it's this important skill of finding rather than solving. It's a question, really. Do you really need to be going to a company that's world class? Do you really need to be going to a company that's world class? People talk about best practice, right? And sometimes companies try to copy companies that have best practice. Well, what we found with our knowledge brokering was best practice isn't necessarily what you need to do when you're looking for answers. So I'm a tennis player. I'm a very bad tennis player. Very poor tennis player. So the question is, if I want to get coaching for my tennis, should I go to Roger, who is in Switzerland, right? Or should I go to this guy who's kind of the coach at the local tennis club? You see, he's throwing the ball. Who's a better expert for me to go to here? Learning tennis. This man here, right? Because if I go to Roger, it's just, I'm never going to be able to absorb half of the things he's telling me, right? Even just returning the ball is going to be a real stress. Whereas with him, he can kind of teach me something. And what, we found with knowledge brokering, as we, work with teams to bring in ideas, is that sometimes you just want to go to companies that are just a little bit further ahead of you, right? They've been through the movie before, or they know how to do something, they've been through the next stage, and that way you kind of take the ideas to go up a step. It's not necessarily obligatory to find companies that are best in the world at something.